Good morning, everyone. Today I will be presenting and showing my presentation of America's Children's School and their mental health. This is what I'll be talking about in my presentation. Why did I choose this question, or what was my main reasoning behind all this information and why I went through it, what I'm doing right now? I am a student. I do have classmates, I do have friends who own school, and when it comes to mental health and depression, anxiety, a whole bunch of other mental disabilities, how is it that these issues are rising to a factor where this might not even be able to be solved if it gets to a high rate? This epidemic has been increasing to a high rate, and what's the main reasoning behind this? What's causing this mental illnesses, and what's causing them to have depression and anxiety? And are students going to be able to come through it, come through with it, and overcome this issue that they have? And just why is it happening to them, and what are they going through to have this epidemic increase to a state? So my research gap is basically what's the main reasoning behind this epidemic? Is there a specific reason why students are getting mental illnesses? Is it the classwork, the homework, the tests, or bullying, or just, in what state is it going to be to a point where this issue is going to be able to not get to a point anymore, and it's just going to take over nationwide? And how are teachers helping students? Are the parents at home helping students with this epidemic? Are the counselors helping? What's the solution to kids who have problems, who are going through mental illnesses like depression and anxiety? So these are some important terms that you should be known well, because this is basically what a broad of my presentation. Mental health has to do with the brain and how you're feeling emotionally, and has to do with psychological stuff. Nothing really physical of how you hurt yourself, or it's all mentally in the head and what you feel emotionally and mentally. Physical health is basically the way you look. If your body's right, you're eating healthy, you're staying fit, or just basically everything that has to do with your body. Nothing with the head emotional. Just if you're feeling good, how is your body feeling at the moment? And psychology is basically the overall term for mental health and physical health. It's the study of your health, basically. Mental health and physical health basically factors into that psychology. So addressing the issue. So how are students dealing with mental health issues due to school, and how is it affecting them? Mental health in school is very critical, and it's such a big epidemic. And a statistic is that 1 in 5 students are actually diagnosed with emotional, behavioral, or mental health disorder. So if you count 5 students, at least one of them is dealing with depression or anxiety, and you may not even know it because they haven't come up to it and be like, look, I'm going through something. Just to know the fact that every 20 students, there's 10 students going through something, and you may not even know it. It can get so severe, and to a point where students may not even be able to deal with it anymore, that they get impaired to a function. They are impaired to function at school, at home, or in their community elsewhere. Mental health is a big issue where it's not just a quick snap and it's solved. It needs to be offered a variety of subtypes of support. It's not just a quick talk, and that's it. This issue needs time for it to be addressed and completely resolved, so this person knows that he can get help or she can get help, and it's just not gonna stay like this forever. And that in school, they need school to be in. They need school in order to be successful in life, and that if they're feeling this type of way in school, that they're never gonna get to where they need to be and be successful in life. So this issue needs lots of support and emotional support, physical support for this student to be able to resolve their mental health issues. So my methods section. I was able to conduct a survey and narrative analysis. With my narrative analysis, I was able to actually conduct somewhat of an interview and get like a story from actually a student who did suffer mental illnesses. This student described to me that he was actually going through depression at a time where his life just wasn't going the right way, and even school wasn't even helping him out, where he didn't feel right at school, that he tried to come to school to get issues away and talk to friends and just try to feel happy with everything that he was going through, and it just didn't help out. He was going through stuff, and his depression came to a point where he needed to go see help, and at the end of the day, he went to go see help, and he talked to people, and he talked to his counselors in school, and he came up to his problem, and now he's finally good again, and he knows that he can get help just like if any other students need help with their mental illnesses that are coming from school or anything like that, that they're able to come and talk to people who need help. So right here, this is my survey. It's an anonymous survey with questions, and it says, what is your current household filled with? And it has a bunch of questions. So both parents, how do you feel about your school environment? Whether you feel like, this could be my home half of the time, or this I don't really feel safe at all here, where I don't like being comfortable around here, this and that. And the following questions are there. So this is my results for my survey, part 1. So all the way on the left side, on the blue, we have 5 students who have actually experienced mental health. On the green, we have 7 students who actually had suicidal thoughts and were thinking of killing themselves or cutting themselves or actually doing damage to themselves. 9 students surveyed that while they were going through mental health or just experiencing mental health, they actually felt well supported throughout their process, and they felt that they were comfortable talking to their problems, and they felt supported enough to be able to talk to them. 4 students felt moderately supported, and these students, they felt somewhat comfortable and were able to say what they needed to say, but at the same time, they still hold grudges and didn't know sure they were able to trust people enough to talk about their issues. And then 1 student really didn't feel supported at all, where this student just wasn't capable of telling their issues to anybody, and the issue just came abroad, and she wasn't able, or he or she wasn't able to come out with her issues. So this is my survey results part 2. 5 students did not experience any sort of mental health due to school. 9 students never really felt suicidal thoughts because of school. 3, even though they weren't suffering mental health, they still felt poorly supported in their work, in their student environment. If they needed to talk to a counselor or talk to an adult, they weren't really feeling comfortable enough to be like, okay, I can go do this. Number 2, 2 students felt moderately supported. So back to the other result, they somewhat kind of felt supported enough to talk to people, but wasn't really sure if it would come out beneficial to them at the end. And 4 students actually did feel comfortable enough to be like, okay, I can go talk to this person right away, and they could help me out at the end of the day and get me help with my issues. So here are some important statistics. Like on the left, on all the way at the left side in the dark blue, we have 75% of students who have suffered from depression really don't get help from their mental health problems. So these students, 75% students go through these issues and don't say a word about them trying to get help. And at the end of the day, if you don't get your issues spoken out, your issues are just going to pile and pile and pile and pile. And at the end of the day, it's just going to only get worse. 44% American college students are having symptoms of mental health issues, and most of them are actually have attempted to suicide. So they're not trying to solve their issues by talking to a counselor, talking to a friend, talking to a parent. These students have actually wanted to just kill themselves as a way to end their problems. And this is where the huge epidemic crisis comes in, of where students are not being able to get the help that they need, and instead are killing themselves. And this is where the epidemic is a huge factor in American society, and that this is the future of America. Students, and what's going to happen if all these students are suffering depression and anxiety and just mental health issues. Okay, 49% here at the bottom, students have never really talked to a doctor about their problem. And to be honest, the best way that you can go is to a doctor to see what their diagnosis is and what your answer could be to get help. Either talk to a counselor, emotional therapy, this and that. Now here's a statistic that is pretty much really scary, that 24% suicide accounted for, that all deaths are among 15 to 24 years old. So 15 to 24 is basically still in school. That's high school, even middle school to college. Those ages are all school related children. So if you think about it, kids are killing themselves and they are still in school. 5% male, ages 12 to 9, have experienced a major depression episode where they go through a mental health crisis and they just don't know what to do and they're just fully depressed. And 12% of actually female have experienced a major depressive episode. Here we have 40% of students fail to seek help, and they're just not willing to get the help they need and think that they could possibly resolve their issues by themselves. 30% of students have actually reported their problems in schoolwork due to mental health issues. So these students are saying that the main reason that they are going to struggle is because of school. And one of them, basically going back to my gap, is that how is school causing such an epidemic to where students are killing themselves and students have depression and anxiety. 80% feel overwhelmed by their responsibilities as a student. So this is partially a reasoning for the teacher. And are the teachers being too hard? Are the teachers not being two-sided view and only one-sided, where this student needs to do this, this, and that, and not thinking about mentally how the student is and if they're capable of so much coming at them and all that. 50% have struggled greatly from anxiety and a result have struggled in school. So this is saying that many students are suffering from anxiety, and at the end of the day, they're struggling in school and not doing what their best capability is. And at the end of the day, they are struggling and not being able to get the help they need. 50% of students shared that mental health is below average or poor. So these are saying that mental health, it really isn't such a big deal that it's below average or poor, that the students are suffering from any issues like this. And then 7% of actually parents reported that students suffer from mental health issues in college. So parents have actually reported incidents where their child has suffered mental illnesses before. So my limitations. One of my limitations was not being able to get lots of participants for my survey, and that if I was able to get more participants, I could have a greater results to look at. It would have been better if my survey was more diverse besides just in my school personally. So the limitation was barely any diversity within the survey. And then lastly, I really can't hold it against them, but students not being able to not being comfortable with expressing themselves. So students not being able to fill out the survey because they don't feel like I can fill this out and be comfortable to where this information is gonna go, and this and that. So, are there any questions?